Hi everyone, this is the Nordic Venture Show, your guide to the exciting world of Nordic startups and venture capital. In today's episode, we're exploring a startup called Carbonaide.
All right, so today we're going to dive into something pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like we're talking turning a major climate problem into a potential solution.
Absolutely.
And specifically, we're looking at concrete.
Right.
And you know how much concrete contributes to global emissions?
Oh, it's a big one.
Right.
Yeah.
But this company, Carbonaide, they've developed some award-winning technology that could maybe flip the script.
I'm intrigued
on that whole emissions problem.
Yeah. Well, it's it can be so overwhelming trying to keep up with all the news and the technologies and sustainability and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we're doing this deep dive today.
Well,
we want to, give you a really clear picture of what Carbonaide is doing, how their technology actually works.
Get into the nuts and bolts.
Yeah. And why this could be such a big deal in the fight against climate change.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
And we've got some great sources to work with today.
Excellent.
We're going to be looking at Carbonaide's own ESG guidelines, environmental, social governance,
of course,
all that stuff.
Yeah.
And we're also going to look at some details from their website about their technology and some really interesting partnerships they've got going on.
Exciting.
So the mission for this deep dive is really straightforward.
Okay.
We want to get to the heart.
Right to the core.
Of Carbonaide's tech.
Yeah.
Understand the environmental impact.
Of course.
And see how they're working with others.
A collaboration is key.
To make concrete a carbon sink.
Ambitious goal.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump in.
Let's do it.
Carbonaide.
Yeah.
They essentially provide this technology for precast concrete manufacturers.
Right.
And it all revolves around this idea of carbonization.
So they're taking carbon curing.
Carbon dioxide and putting it into the concrete.
They're injecting it into the concrete as it's curing.
Interesting. So they're trapping it in the material itself.
And storing.
As it hardens.
Right.
Okay.
Now, precast concrete.
Yes.
I think most people know this.
Hopefully.
But just to clarify,
sure.
It's made in a factory setting, right?
Yeah, so it's a controlled environment.
Right.
Yeah,
and they're making things like
those
panels that you see on buildings.
Big concrete panels.
Bridge beams, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And then they transport those to the construction site.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Carbonaide's innovation here is this carbonization, carbon curing process.
And they figured out a way
where they can introduce
the CO2 into that concrete mix
during the curing phase.
Right. As it hardens.
Exactly.
Smart.
This works with
works.
Standard Portland cement mixtures.
So they're regular stuff that everyone uses.
The typical stuff.
Okay, good. So it's compatible.
Yeah, which is a big advantage.
Makes it a lot easier to adopt.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is where things get really interesting.
Okay, lay it on me.
Because it's not just good for the environment.
Right.
Potentially good for the manufacturers as well.
Oh, how so?
Well, by introducing the CO2 and facilitating this carbonization, they can reduce
the need for
the amount of cement they need.
Cement. Okay, so less cement.
Yeah.
And cement is a
huge emitter.
Source of emissions, right?
Yeah.
It's really energy intensive to produce.
Exactly.
So if you can reduce that,
it's a big win.
That's a huge win for the embodied carbon of concrete.
And less cement.
And as a bonus.
Could also mean cost savings.
Saves money.
Right.
For the manufacturers.
So they're happy.
Yeah, they're happy.
Less emissions.
Everyone's happy.
Everyone's happy.
Yeah. Okay, so
we've reduced the cement. Yeah. Which is great.
Less emissions.
Yeah.
Potentially lower costs.
Yeah. What happens to the CO2?
Where does that CO2
Where does it go?
End up?
Yeah.
Right? Because we're injecting it in there.
Right.
But it doesn't just sit there.
Well, it does.
It doesn't just sit there.
It does, kind of.
It does. But it goes through this process.
It becomes part of the...
called mineralization.
Yeah.
It actually reacts chemically.
Yeah.
With the concrete.
It's not just trapped.
And becomes a mineral.
Right.
Like it turns into stone again, basically.
Yeah, like it's locked in there permanently.
Permanently part of the concrete.
So it's not just...
absorbed for a while?
It's not captured temporarily.
Right.
It's permanently stored.
Okay. So this is where...
And that's what makes
they start talking
carbon negative concrete possible.
Right.
Because you're actually locking that CO2 away.
Right.
And if you combine that And if you use alternative low-carbon binders?
Yes, things that can
instead of all that cement.
Replace some or all of the cement.
You can actually get to...
You can actually tip the scales.
A point where
concrete is
carbon negative.
Carbon negative.
Meaning it's actually removing more from the atmosphere
than was emitted in its production.
Than it took to create it.
That's pretty amazing.
It's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah.
When you think about it, like you're turning a precast plant.
A concrete plant.
Into a carbon sink.
Into a carbon sink.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where did this...
So this technology actually came out of
Yeah.
VTT Technical Research Center of Finland.
Okay.
Which is a really...
well-respected
research institution.
Yeah. And they've had a lot of support.
Yeah, and it's been really cool to see.
From the local precast industry.
The Finnish construction sector.
In Finland.
Really embracing this.
Yeah.
And helping to develop it.
So it's not just theoretical.
It's not just an idea in a lab.
Right.
This is something that's been...
They've had practical application in mind.
Designed for the real world.
From the start.
From the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Carbonaide doesn't just focus on the technology.
They have a broader vision.
Yeah, they've got these ESG guidelines.
Yeah, for their suppliers and partners.
Yeah. So what are some of their environmental priorities?
Well, first and foremost,
yeah,
they want everyone to comply with
all the laws and regulations.
All the environmental laws.
Of course.
And regulations.
Yeah, can't cut corners.
You can't build a sustainable future by breaking the law.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the foundation.
Yeah.
What else? They also really emphasize resource efficiency.
Okay.
So minimizing the use of raw materials.
Okay.
Reducing waste.
Right.
You know, just being as efficient as possible.
Sustainable practices.
In terms of energy.
Across the board.
Water use.
Yeah.
Sourcing materials responsibly.
It's really a holistic approach.
It's a whole systems thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're looking at the whole picture.
Beyond just their technology.
Not just their own little bubble.
Right, the whole
supply chain.
Supply chain.
Yeah.
Yeah, what about climate change specifically?
Yeah, so they have a whole section called climate action, and they really encourage...
They want their partners to...
get involved as well.
To set their own goals.
Yeah.
For reducing emissions.
Okay.
And they really want everyone to work towards...
Carbon neutrality.
Carbon neutrality.
Wow.
Which is the big...
That's ambitious.
Ambitious goal.
Yeah.
But... You know, they're really pushing for it.
So they're not just saying, hey.
They're not just making suggestions. They actually want to see action and accountability.
Oh, how do they?
So they emphasize transparency.
Okay.
They want their partners.
So track the progress.
To be open about their emissions.
Yeah.
To report their progress regularly.
Okay. So they can track.
They're trying to build a whole network.
Yeah. They want to create.
The responsible collaborator.
A whole ecosystem of sustainability.
Now.
Okay.
We found some really cool news.
There's some exciting news.
From February 2025.
Yeah.
About some real-world applications.
Real-world stuff.
Yeah, and some partnerships.
Putting it into practice.
What caught your eye there?
Well, the big thing is
they
successfully demonstrated their technology.
Okay.
Using direct air capture, CO2.
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So they're taking CO2.
Which is amazing.
Directly from the air.
Right.
And using that
to make the concrete,
secure the concrete,
which
means
you're literally cleaning the air.
You're sucking carbon out of the atmosphere and locking it away.
And they're working with.
And to do that, they've partnered with
some really cool companies. Some awesome companies.
Yeah.
Neocarbon.
From Germany.
And
Soltair Power.
From Finland.
Yeah. And they've actually produced...
They've actually made industrial-scale batches of carbon-negative
concrete. That's amazing.
This isn't just a lab experiment.
It's happening.
This is real-world manufacturing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Neocarbon. Tell me a bit more about them.
Yeah, they're based in Berlin.
Okay.
And they've developed this DACE technology that's really well suited for industrial processes.
Why is that?
Because it can use waste heat.
Oh, interesting.
In those facilities.
Oh.
So cement plants.
They produce a lot of heat.
They produce a ton of heat.
Right.
That's just wasted.
Okay.
So Neocarbon can use that.
Capture the emissions.
To power their DACE system.
From the plant itself.
And capture CO2 from the air.
So it's a really efficient setup.
It's super efficient.
And what did their CEO have to say about this?
Yeah, so René Haas, the CEO of Neocarbon, he was really emphasizing how important carbon capture is.
For concrete.
For the concrete industry, because it's such a big emitter.
Yeah.
And he said their goal is to basically transform
to make it
concrete production into a carbon sink.
Wow.
So they're not just trying to reduce emissions.
Right.
They want to make it a net positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's huge.
Okay, what about Solterre Power?
So Solterre Power.
Yeah.
They have a slightly different approach.
Okay.
They're focused on capturing CO2 from building HVAC systems.
Oh.
So your heating, ventilation,
okay.
air conditioning.
Interesting.
And that's really cool because it's a very localized solution.
Right.
You're capturing CO2 right where it's being produced.
Yeah.
And it also improves indoor air quality. Yeah, two birds, one stone.
Right.
Yeah, and what they do is they take that captured CO2 and they provide it to Carbonaide to make carbon negative concrete.
So it's like
it's turning a waste product into a valuable resource.
Okay.
Yeah, Petri Loxo.
Yeah.
He used a really great analogy.
Okay.
He said it's like turning
okay.
harmful emissions into valuable solid minerals.
Wow.
So you're not just reducing harm, you're creating something of value. And it's important to note that Carbonaide can use CO2 from a variety of sources.
Cool.
They're very flexible.
Yeah, what else?
So they can use it from biomethane production, energy and industrial processes, and even emissions that are covered by the EU emissions trading system. And the really cool thing is, use low purity CO2, which means they could potentially have on-site air capture. At the precast plant, they could capture CO2 and feed it directly, make the they're capturing the CO2 and putting it right back into their product.
Yeah.
So that's the technology.
Yeah.
But what the bigger picture here? What is Carbonaide's vision? They want to. Yeah, and it's not just environmental benefits either. Saving the planet. There are economic benefits for concrete producers. Well, if you can use less cement, you're saving money. Raw materials.
Okay.
And sometimes this carbonization process can actually make the concrete stronger.
Oh, wow.
Or more durable. So it's better concrete. And it costs less to make. It's a win-win
for sure.
For everyone.
For sure.
And because everywhere, precast concrete plants are all over the place.
Yeah.
So if this technology is adopted widely, it could have a huge impact on atmospheric CO2 removal.
Yeah.
Right, which is their main focus. But they're not just focused. They care about the S and the G as well.
Yeah.
So they want their partners to be socially responsible.
Okay.
So things like fair labor practices, respecting human rights,
of course,
promoting diversity and inclusion, and engaging with local communities. It's about being a good neighbor, a good corporate citizen. So on the governance side, they want to make sure that their partners
to be ethical
are acting ethically.
Yeah.
So things like anti-corruption, transparency and financial reporting,
makes sense.
Data privacy and security, and of course, complying with the ESG guidelines and reporting on their performance. It's the whole package.
Yeah.
All right, so to wrap things up, what are the key takeaways
really big thing
from this deep dive? Yeah, what do you want our listeners to walk away with? It is really cool. Carbon negative concrete. Yeah.
That's
it is. with those DAC companies.
Dream.
At a large scale.
Work.
Yeah, and they're committed
Yes.
with these ESG principles. So they're partners. It's a really impressive approach. So for you, our listener, we hope this has been an interesting look at a really cool company that's doing something really meaningful to fight climate change. It's inspiring to see this kind of innovation. And it makes you wonder what other industries could be transformed from emitters into carbon sinks. What if we could do this with steel production, or agriculture? There's so much potential for cross-sector innovation. It's really exciting. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Nordic Venture Show. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more stories of innovation from the Nordics.